Hello, welcome again to another edition of our community live stream. My name is Tahira Lovell. I'm joined by Lennox Cumberbatch and Siobhan Clark Joe. We'd like to welcome you to our live stream today. What's privacy got to do with it? Our topic today is AI and privacy. Now, this is obviously artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, innovations in tech. This seems to be all the buzz right now for most organizations and individuals. And I think it's really appropriate that we're joined by Siobhan today. If she could just tell us a little bit more about what her new role is with the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Bermuda.
Sure, Tahira. Thank you. And it's great to be here. Excited to have this conversation. So, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, in April, I was asked to develop an innovation unit. And it's really exciting. It's quite timely with the conversations around AI and privacy, really looking at the overlap of AI and privacy, ethics, human rights, and things of that sort. Topics that are very complex or quite novel falls under my remit with the Privacy Commissioner's Office.
Awesome. So it's really great to see you on an island that the Privacy Commissioner's Office, sees the value in
Mm.
ensuring that organizations and the community have real understanding of what these impacts may be of these new technology, not necessarily new, but sort of novel uses of the
Oh,
technology.
mhm.
Lennox is our Director of Accounting Services at Abacus. Would you like to just say hello again to everyone? We may have some new joiners today.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Tiara said, my name is Lennox Cumberbatch from Abacus. And yeah, I'm very happy to welcome you here again today for our second webinar in 2023. And I think this one is going to be pretty interesting based on the topic that we're talking about, because this is in everyone's face currently.
Sure. And of course, I'm Tahira Lovell, the CEO of the TLC Group of Companies UK Limited. And listen, we have clients not just in Bermuda, but obviously not obviously, but we have clients in the Caribbean and international. And on the top agenda for a lot of clients is how are they going to address not just the risks of artificial intelligence in the organization when it comes to data protection, but also how can they benefit, right? So we will talk about that a little bit later today. Some of the topics we'll be discussing is defining AI. What does it actually mean? Because we sometimes it can be used as sort of a throwaway term. Anything that seems new or it seems like the computer is intelligent is being classed as artificial intelligence, and that's not necessarily always the case. We'll also be looking at the organizational impact of AI and how it also can be used as a safeguard. And then obviously with individuals, a lot of us live our lives online. This is a virtual presentation. There are some real risks to us in terms of our personal lives. So how can we protect ourselves? And then at the end, we'll be talking about some predictions and projections from our area of expertise, as well as just some general timely topics that is everyone's talking about at the moment. Just a reminder, feel free to drop your comments, questions in. We should have time at the end to address those because, again, we want to be able to give you the information you need to make better choices when it comes to artificial intelligence in organizations. So let's start by defining AI. I already talked about, it can be used in many different ways. But Siobhan and Lennox, what do you think of when you hear the term artificial intelligence? And let's start with Lennox.
Well, whenever I hear the term artificial, I always think about a simulation. I know many of us grew up drinking juices, and a lot of times, if you read the fine print, you'll see artificial concentrate or something like that. But when you actually drink it, you feel like if you are drinking real juice. So whenever I hear artificial, I think, oh, this is a simulation of the real thing. And for artificial intelligence, because I associate intelligence with humans, that's what I think is a simulation of human intelligence.
Okay. What about you, Siobhan?
Well, when I think of AI, I get really excited about the opportunities that might come. That, as Lennox mentioned, could make our lives much more easier as human beings. So I think of particularly repetitive tasks that we do on a regular basis, and because in addition to my interest and passion for AI and privacy, I'm also into holistic health and nutrition. Repetitive tasks aren't very healthy for us as human beings in general. But unfortunately, it's embedded as a responsibility for so many jobs across industries. So when I think of AI, I think of systems and technology that automates manual processes. I think of, things that can help us work smarter instead of harder, if that makes sense.
Sure. And I guess for me, when it comes to artificial intelligence, so I grew up of a certain, I'm of a certain generation, where by this time, I thought we were going to have flying cars or self-driven cars. I know that's coming. But for myself, I hate driving. So I am really looking forward to where there is a safe, because I'm not ready to get in any of these test subject cars, but where there's a safe way that we can maximize our time and a lot of people's time, even in this virtual remote working type of workplace and environments. A lot of us still have to commute to do, go grocery shopping, pick up our children, all these different tasks. For me, artificial intelligence and machine learning and emerging tech is about finding more time in my life. So to Siobhan's point about these rote tasks, these repetitive tasks, that's what I am most excited about. But of course, we do have to talk about some of the risks, but there are some exciting ways that hopefully artificial intelligence will be implemented to make our lives as humans a lot more meaningful. When I talk about the definition, I had a quick look in the dictionaries. Every dictionary had a different definition. So for this purposes, we're just going to use the one from Merriam-Webster. Here you can see again, it just talks about simulation, to Lennox's point, of intelligent behavior by computers and their ability to imitate what could be considered intelligent human behavior. And then I thought this slide is really apt. For those of us who are in the field, we're in technology, data privacy protection, the legal field, and IT, we may have already sort of been familiar with what AI could do and what the impacts. I think for many people, they were just, going along, minding their business, January 1st, 2023. And then, within a couple of weeks, there was all this talk. There was ChatGPT and, all the Google was implementing all these AI technologies, Microsoft. Every technology that we just use as a general day-to-day use is looking at putting in some little AI function. And I don't know if you've noticed it, Lennox or Siobhan, but I've seen a lot of tools that I'm using. There's little privacy notices coming up now. There's these new terms of services to agree, because again, these technologies are being implemented into tools that we already do. So yeah, we maybe have just been driving along, minding our own business, but there's a pothole ahead. And that pothole is, what is the disruption? What are the changes and impacts that AI may have for us? And then sort of, when we talk about this disruption and, where people may be concerned or excited about it, what are you hearing, Siobhan, in the community, obviously in your role as the Assistant Commissioner, Head of Innovation? What are you hearing from maybe some clients or organizations in the community?
Sure. We offer the Pink Sandbox initiative, and it's a great place for entities to just try on solutions, try on new technology that may have privacy impacts. In those conversations, there has been talks of different pieces of technology that could be designed here in Bermuda that would use some level of AI or ML. machine learning. But then in addition to that, a lot of entities in their day-to-day, they're looking for solutions for HR, they're looking for solutions for marketing, for sales. They're looking for new ways that they can continue to develop their business. And a lot of those tools are not designed just for the entity. They have to do their due diligence and research. They find it online. A lot of those tools that you will find online have AI built into it. And so I think that's where Bermuda will really have its biggest introductions. And obviously it's lingering already, in a lot of the technology that businesses are using. The question is, do they know that AI is what's driving the solution that they have embedded into their organization? And so a lot of the awareness in this space is very timely and really important, just like this conversation today.
So you mentioned the Pink Sandbox, Siobhan. Are there requirements or fees attached for organizations who want to be a part of that particular program?
Well, yeah, there's no fees, no, but there are, of course, specifications of, what type of engagement we may have with the community. So we do have a form on our website, privacy.bm, where you can fill it out, and then we do an exploratory consultation to see if it is a good fit. We are at our max for now. September, or in the fall, I should say, we will be open to looking at new entities to work with and new projects in the community to support the privacy.
All right. So for anyone who's based in Bermuda and you're looking for, again, some guidance and support around some of these new technologies you may be looking to implement and how they'll impact your data protection program, definitely get in touch with the Privacy Commissioner's office. And then Lennox, what about yourself? What are you seeing out there, just maybe within your family, the talks people are possibly having, or some of your clients that you're dealing with for operational support?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the buzz that you're hearing, people are worried, to be frank. Some people are worried about AI taking over the jobs, AI being a more efficient tool to use than an actual human being. So there is some worry about that. And then there's also excitement about this whole AI. We here at Abacus as a team, we are implementing a number of tools that incorporate AI into our everyday work. And it has a lot of synergistic benefits. We are able to do things a lot quicker, which means that then we're able to report to our clients a lot quicker, so they're benefiting from it. And again, we also do our due diligence in terms of these apps and these tools that we're using to ensure, even though that they're giving us a great amount of efficiency in what we do ensure that where the information is being stored or where it's being sent in the cloud is protected, and our clients' data is protected. So in summary, AI, yes, some people are worried about it, but there is a huge percentage of people who are excited about it and are using it to create efficiencies within their processes and procedures.
Tahira, could I just chime in here? Lennox, you made a really good point about, and that's true. So many people are very afraid of what this might mean in terms of job security and opportunities. We do have a way to go before we could even see something like that remotely happening. And to be honest, AI, there are some, ethical principles around AI development and use that to some extent will protect human beings. Really AI, one of the biggest highlights is around intelligence augmentation or amplification. And so we will need the expertise of human beings to train, to work with these technologies. And so there's scope and opportunity for across industries for individuals to still be very, very involved with working. But it's just going to look a little bit different in the very near future.
Thanks for that additional input there, Siobhan. And I think the idea of the augmentation side, I think is very attractive for those of us who are in the cybersecurity data protection fields. A lot of the work that we do is that repetitive, analysis type of work. If we were able to have these systems, and we will talk about a couple of benefits that AI represents for safeguarding information. To have these tools, it gives us then the freedom to actually make strategic decisions based on facts and not just based on, oh, we think, there's a lot, I think there's a lot more accuracy around this field with these sort of tools. So thanks for that, for sure. The organizational impact of AI. So Lennox representing Abacus, they're already using some of these tools. There's these steps that you have to take. You can't just go ahead and put them out into the wild, so to speak. But one of the things that AI can represent for interpreting and analyzing and using data. A lot of us don't necessarily, and even myself, I'm not a software programmer or developer. I don't know what the code means, but really, even the coders do, because a lot of AI systems are what they call black box systems. So they give it a certain number of parameters, but they really aren't quite sure how all those computer networks and neural networks work together to come up with these decisions, right? So I think a lot of that complexity and the amount of information that AI systems are processing is where we're going to see some of those greatest impacts. So we're just going to take a few moments to really look at what some of those complex challenges are for businesses. So holistic data protection. When we talk about holistic data protection, we're talking about looking at the organization as a whole, all the different types of data, where it's coming from, the vendors, who it's being shared with, who it's being protected by, who has access to the data. So with artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions, the amount of data that they can consume and put out is astronomical in terms of what a human would generally be able to take on. So Internet of Things, you've got all these different devices that we're walking around with or using in our homes, smart homes, right? All these smart TVs. A lot of organizations have also adopted, smart alarm systems and things like that. All of that data now has to be looked at from a data protection and holistic privacy standpoint. So the complexity here is making sure that you have protections around those, how it's being stored, where it's being processed and shared. And then any encryption techniques and access controls that your organization puts in place for artificial intelligence solutions. Then risk assessment. So Siobhan and Lennox have already touched on this due diligence idea of making sure that, we're looking to see, is this system actually fit for purpose? Does it really do what it says? And in a way that protects the privacy of personal information and also sensitive information. Some of these, and Lennox, you may want to just touch on this really briefly, about some accounting softwares, financial information that these tools are taking on board. What have you sort of seen for some of the systems that you're adopting?
One of the main systems we use here at Abacus is QuickBooks. And QuickBooks have incorporated AI for a number of years. I would say the cloud version, because, for example, if you're posting transactions and you are importing transactions from the bank, the first import of those transactions into QuickBooks, you have to code them to a correct GL. Forgive me if I'm speaking some accounting language here, but there's the best way I know how to explain it. But on the second import of those same transactions or identical transactions from identical suppliers or vendors, the system automatically picks up, okay, you would have posted a transaction from, let's say, Buzz here in Bermuda or Chafette in Barbados. You would have posted that to Meals and Entertainment. So automatically then it picks up, okay, this is a receipt or a transaction from Buzz or Chafette. This is supposed to go to Meals and Entertainment. So that in itself is AI, and it saves a lot of time rather than having someone manually have to code transactions into the GL. So that is definitely one of the things. We're also using another system. We recently implemented a system called DEX. Before it was called Receipt Bank. And that basically uses the same methodology to record transactions into the GL as well. It really, the artificial intelligence in the system remembers that a particular transaction with a particular supplier goes into a certain GL. It does have limitations because you can buy something from one supplier that can be different from another purchase. So it does have the limitations. And as Siobhan said, that is where the human element remains relevant, because then you need a human to come in and say, okay, even though I pushed this into this GL because it came from Buzz, maybe this goes to another GL because it's a different purchase. So that's where the human element remains relevant. But it's really creating a lot of efficiencies in our process.
Sure. And obviously, QuickBooks is a well-known software program, but there are a lot of companies out there that provide sort of accounting, financial systems, HR systems, and they may not have as much traction in the market. So you may find that you may be the only organization using this new tool, right? So you don't have that support system to be able to go and look at a community to see issue around the complexity with risk assessments with artificial intelligence is there isn't a lot of knowledge bases already around the use of some of these tools. We will obviously will see that develop further, but if you are looking at implementing an artificial intelligence solution or process into your organization, risk assessments are critical because again the potential impacts. I mean, obviously, putting coding a receipt into the wrong account may be one thing, but say I got the head of a company's payroll then to the wrong individual, right? Because the system has these automations already built in. So I think we need to obviously look at what those impacts are to those individuals, especially if it's something that is of a real high risk to the individual. And then complexity and compliance. So a lot of artificial intelligence solutions, so Bermuda, the Caribbean, a lot of the systems that we may rely on aren't necessarily built in those jurisdictions. So by default, and a lot of them are online or cloud-based, by default already you're introducing cross-border data transfer, cross-border data flows or international data transfers. So you may be looking at multiple, so it's not just Bermuda's Personal Information Protection Act or PIPA that you're looking at complying with. You may have your data stored in the EU. You may have it stored in China, depending where these organizations that built the systems, where they're storing the data. So things about compliance, where the information is being stored. And also there's principles really around data protection, which is the principles of like data minimization, consent, purpose limitation. We will talk in a bit about where some of these artificial intelligence, how they become artificial, how their intelligence actually comes about in terms of the training and things like that. So knowing where your data is really important for data protection compliance. And then the ethics side of things. And I am going to turn it over here to Siobhan. Siobhan, did you want to just sort of share about, sort of some of your background in this field of artificial intelligence and ethics? Where you the impact organizations.
Sure, indeed. My interest in data protection and privacy, it took an entirely different shape as I continued on with studying in general. And so I embarked on studying through the London School of Economics and Political Science, the ethics in AI, as well as data law, policy, and regulation. And pursuing both of those certifications at the same time was exhausting, but it was perfect because it really helped to really shape my understanding of how many ethical concerns exist as we consider artificial intelligence, and not necessarily, well, yes, where it is today, but as it continues to evolve or emerge, as we discussed, emerging, it's the unknown, right? So we just don't know what that will look like. So we have to be quite diligent when it comes to protecting people. And that's where ethics comes into play. People's privacy rights and human rights all come into play in that regard. AI, machine learning, if you think of Cookie Monster, they need data, right? They need as much information that they can get so that they can churn out results. notes and give suggestions and prompt alerts and things of that sort. So understanding the way that people behave, that would be viewed as profiling, and that becomes a privacy concern. So the way that AI is collecting the information, that ends up being a really serious consideration that businesses need to consider. Again, when it comes to feeding the data to the machine, if you're building a solution yourself, that complexity of all of the data and where is it coming from, that instantly will flag concerns around people's privacy. Who do they make a complaint to if they're not happy with the way that things are going? If they need to understand how the machine is making decisions about their lives and their livelihood, that becomes a serious ethical issue as well, particularly if the machine or the AI is designed to make decisions without human oversight. That's when it becomes really, really scary for individuals, and protecting their rights, protecting their information. So again, the data sprawl of so much information just all over the place. Where is it coming from? How are decisions being made? That black box that Tahira talked about, that's where there's a lot of complexity and overlap with privacy.
Yeah. And I think also, Siobhan, as well, isn't it that a lot of organizations are looking to show that they're socially responsible, or they're, there's corporate social responsibility built in to their vision and their values.
Absolutely.
How does AI reflect that, or how can they adjust AI to make sure the use of AI, that it is also consistent with their social responsibility mission?
Yeah, I mean, ESR, CSR, those are big topics, of course, around the world. Again, with this whole holistic approach, right? And so with that in mind, revisiting policies, number one, really having a think of your values before the policies, really going back and seeing, what values are going to ensure that the decisions we make when we're embedding or exploring artificial intelligence, that it's aligned with the culture and the values of our organization. And then it should be reflective in your policies, in your procedures, really making good choices in terms of the business that created that particular solution, making sure that your, that your privacy program, that your ethical code of conduct, that your AI code of conduct. These are things that we could really start thinking about, putting a stamp, putting the organization stamp on, so that it is, again, reflective of the organization's values and their culture and the ethics.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So it's not all doom and gloom. We've already said, Lennox already talked about there's two camps. There's some that are like, oh my gosh, but it's me. I don't know what to do with these new technologies. For some people, again, it may be just the fear of the unknown, right? And I take it back to when, internet first came to be, and then, we have 2.0 and then 3.0. Now we've got obviously this AI and ML. I guess we call it an age, a renaissance. I'm not sure what it will finally be.
An explosion.
Yeah, but I think, they always like to have these terms, right? So there's going to be some sort of digital marker for this particular season that we're in. But again, artificial intelligence is a tool. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. It also can help with cybersecurity and data privacy and protection, which is where we're going to turn to as the next few slides. We're really going to talk about some of those benefits for organizations. The first one, data inventory and classification. So for those of you who don't know, this should really be one of the first steps a lot of organizations take when it comes to a data privacy program. Knowing what data you have, how it's flowing in and out of your organization, classifying it, because without those classifications, how will you know what protections to put on, whether it's high-risk data, it's highly sensitive data, genetic data, things like that, whether it's restricted, internal, all these different labels we can give to data. This is one of the most crucial steps. Quite often, it's the step people miss or choose to just sort of tiptoe around because it's very onerous. And Siobhan, you've obviously come from a background where you've been involved in a lot of projects that had to do this step. Can you just share with us sort of what were some of your thoughts about doing that manually?
Oh, as you said, it's laborious. I mean, of course, when we're talking about, private, managing a privacy program, knowing, data quality and accurate data, that's everything. I mean, think risks if you're using outdated, rotten data. You immediately have to start thinking about privacy and security risks. So it can be very, very time consuming. Again, when we're talking about repetition, it's not healthy. So it can be, discouraging when you have to do those types of work. So it can take a long time as well. And so when we think of technology that exists now, things like OneTrust is an example of a piece of software that can really help. And it is, a lot of OneTrust is driven by AI technology. And so, when you're thinking about classifying data at scale, or when you're thinking about managing that data sprawl and all of those types of things, using tools like OneTrust could save you time and save you mental stress as well. So yeah, data inventory and classification, wherever possible, if you can find some type of application that can at least support you. And again, we're not ready to leave it on its own. You still need the human oversight to have a look at the classification, have a look at the data, and establish how your organization classifies that information. It's very important.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, folks, yes, artificial intelligence is great for electronic data, but a lot of organizations have paper data. So you still, even if you do have a tool like OneTrust, you still need to obviously make sure that you're looking at the physical paper that you have around your organization as well. Don't miss that out in this particular phase. And then access controls and authentication. So Lennox, I'm sure you're in and out of a lot of. What are some of the ways that you are utilizing tools for
So, I mean, we all experience the different sort of access controls and the authentication that's going on today. So before, it used to be just passwords. You just had one password that gets you into wherever you're trying to get. Now we've seen it evolve into merely multi-factor authentication, where you either have a password and a PIN, or there's a password and then there's a code that is sent to a personal device. So currently, I can't think of any system that is used now in everyday operation where there's not dual authentication or multi-factor authentication. And that adds an additional layer of protection, you would say. There's also still the use of security questions. You log in to a particular system, you have password access, but even before you get into the system, you have to answer security questions that you would have either predetermined or pre-inputted into that system, or questions that you should know based on the other personal information that you would have put into the system.
Yeah. And also, you mentioned passwords, Lennox. So with so many clients, are you remembering all of these passwords? How are you managing?
No, I'm going to age myself a little bit here now, because this brain here doesn't remember a lot of passwords anymore. And with the level of clients that we have, I think it probably would have been impossible. Before, we used to have sticky notes, as you said, before privacy became, I guess, so important. You have a notebook somewhere with all these passwords written down, post-it notes stick all around the place with passwords. That is just not the way to go anymore. So currently, we have a very secure password manager, password keeper that we use. You just need to remember one master password, and that is easy for me. Just remember one master password, and then you have access to all your passwords for different client databases, their banking, online banking information. And the good thing about an app like that as well is that you have the option of either entering your own password, or that app can develop what I call overly complex password that is almost impossible for someone to guess. If you're using your own passwords, most people, unfortunately, they use stuff like date of birth, name of their kids, something along that line, which, if someone knows you personally, the probability of them being able to guess that is huge. But with these different apps that we have, you can actually opt for them to give you this password. And the password that they give you, sometimes I'm like, really? You really expect me to remember that? But then it clicks. No, I don't have to remember it because it's being held by the app.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with artificial intelligence, we will see additional layers. So things around sort of behavior analysis. So if the system recognizes that I only work with people divided by in an ideal world, right? And then, for some reason it sees me logging in at 3 a.m., it may say, well, hey, this is strange, and there may be an alert that goes to somewhere, or it may temporarily lock me out, just to, again, provide an additional level of security around who is accessing the information or accessing the network in the organization. And then employee training and awareness. TLC Group, we do training. We provide self-study as well as in-person training. And a lot of feedback we get around this is, how can we ensure that our employees maintain it, they retain this information and maintain awareness around data privacy and cybersecurity? What are some of the sort of challenges, and this is to both of you, do you find yourself personally when you get training, whether that's for your job or just personal endeavors? What are some of these sort of bugbears that you have around training? Lennox, can you start?
Well, one of the things that I don't like about training is because while I'm in training, I'm always thinking about, okay, can I be doing something that is, for example, billable? That would be my organization. So that is one of the challenges for me when it comes to training. But I just want to take this opportunity. It's not necessarily a challenge I have with training, but we have an excellent IT service provider here, and we have these privacy and cybersecurity training modules that take, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes of training, and it really gives you some great information within that short time period. So I say this, they say that the training that this particular IT service provider offers, it doesn't take a lot of time, but what you get from just watching a 15-minute video and then doing a test that takes like I would say a minute, is so much information within that short time period. So the challenge of not being able to be doing something else while you are in a whole day session of training, that basically goes away.
Okay. And Siobhan, what are some of the things that you dislike when it comes to some training that you may have received in the past?
I would say, not having tailored training. I think that is something that it can be annoying because we're at different levels of knowledge and understanding, I think, in the world. And so a boxed solution, one size fits all type of solution, can sometimes feel as if it doesn't have enough personalization to where you are. So it can, similar to what Lennox said, it can feel kind of, boring or too advanced sometimes, and so really getting to have training that is aligned with the skill set or the level you're at in your understanding or knowledge.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the good things about using an artificial intelligence driven training solution. or where you have your in-person delivered training augmented by, an awareness, a 6 month, Lennox mentioned they get, these little bite-sized bits of learning as time goes on. Having that artificial intelligence to sort of learn, okay, this person did this 10 question quiz. They did it in 2 seconds and they got all of the questions right. Okay, the next bit of quizzes that we're going to give them are going to be a little bit harder. Or, okay, maybe this person, they need to have a little bit more understanding of password management or good access controls. So we can tailor, to use Siobhan's word, the experience that they get with training. So I think looking at tools for training that help you really deliver an experience that helps individuals to really understand and retain the information is priceless. There are some concerns, though, about these types of tools. Siobhan, did you just want to mention a couple of them?
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, of course, it's nice, Lennox, to do some other things while you're training. But when I think of risks in my arena, I often think about the fact that people do need to pay attention to what they're learning so that they can make good decisions. Because privacy is about what you do every day, right? It's not, it's when that situation comes that like first aid, that you know exactly what you need to do in that circumstance. And so if you're not paying attention, you can easily miss important points that that having that in-person training or having support at that time might be useful. So being very careful as well in terms of the data that's being collected about the individuals that are being trained, the participants. That is personal information, what they've studied or what score they got. Those things could help with decisions around promotion or decisions around opportunities. And that could lead to emotional distress if that information is used in the wrong way. So there are some privacy risks that go hand in hand with AI types of training.
Sure. And also just the transparency around that. So if your organization has employee privacy notices and statements and things like that, really making sure that if you are introducing these types of functions that will impact the employees, that's actually being updated in those policies also. And then data breach detection and response. This is the bit that makes me want to just get up and click my heels together if I could. When it comes to data breach detection, a lot of it goes unnoticed. So we hear these, this company was breached. But then when you go and read the fine print, it's like 3 months ago or 6 months ago. And for some companies, a year ago, they're just realizing, right? And normally it's because there's something that's happened where the data may have been sold on or they've been approached for a ransom or something like that. So data breach detection, again, this ability for artificial intelligence systems to consume vast amounts of log data and be able to sift through and actually see where there are threats is one of the ways I really think it will be helpful to not just cybersecurity and data privacy professionals, but anyone in an IT field, whether it's for programmers, being able to see, okay, well, my code may not be as secure as I thought it was. The system can analyze it, see where there's a possibility for breaches and vulnerabilities, and some of them can actually provide some advice and guidance, some alternative coding mechanisms. So I think this area is quite helpful. So if you are in IT cybersecurity, data protection, please go have a look and see what systems are out there, because this can give you back hours and possibly days in a week of the work that you do. And then vendor risk management. I mean, Lennox, you're in operations, you're dealing with, a lot of accounts and things like that. On average, how many vendors would you say many organizations have?
Well, it really depends on the nature of the organization, the type of the organization. But if I was to give an estimate, I would say between 50 and 100 for small, medium-sized businesses. They usually have around that 50 to 100 vendors. And, a big part of it as well, I should mention here is when you're going to be using a vendor, as we said before, you really have to do your due diligence around this vendor. You definitely have the right to ask questions if you're going to be engaging in an accounting service. ask them, where is your data being stored? How is it being protected? How am I gaining comfort that my financials are not going to be seen by the world if I'm a private entity or a private individual? So, you definitely have to do your due diligence around engaging vendors in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure. And again, when we're talking about vendors and suppliers, it's really those ones that have access to or processing on your behalf, storing on your behalf, using personal data, sharing personal data that your organization has responsibility for. When we talk about vendor risk management. Just as an aside, next week Tuesday, if you go to our LinkedIn page, we do actually have a webinar we'll be hosting in collaboration with MyCISO, which is a software vendor, and they've got a new module which is called the Supplier portal, which is going to be, I think it's going to be a game changer. Basically, it allows organizations to send out the same risk assessment to all of their vendors. The vendors can complete them. It imports it back into the system, and it actually risks assess vendors and that you identify those that are low risk, medium risk, high risk, depending on the types of data. It feeds into your report in terms of how your organization is generally when it comes to third-party vendor management. So that, again, it's next Tuesday, the 13th at 10 a.m. ADT. So please have a look at that if you want to join us and hear more about this particular issue that this software solves, which is vendor risk management. And then continuous compliance monitoring. And when we talk about continuous compliance monitoring, it's the fact that none of these activities that we do in the fields of cybersecurity, data privacy, and protection are static. They are ongoing. There are changes constantly to the environment, to the types of data that we're actually processing. So when it comes to AI, there is some real benefits. Siobhan, in your experience, when it comes to continuous compliance monitoring, how would you see AI really helping in this particular area?
I think we're already starting to see some evidence of how AI can be useful. I mentioned OneTrust previously, and it's a very popular software in data protection, privacy, and I think they've got some bits of cyber in there as well. But OneTrust, they have used AI to prompt retention. When it's time to embark on destroying information or getting rid of information, it prompts in terms of that. So the monitoring that AI can offer certainly can help with the human aspect. Expecting someone to 24/7 be aware of what's happening in this space has proven for years to be somewhat impossible in some ways. They do a good job, particularly in cybersecurity. Some really good work happens over there. But the reality is, as a human being, things could get missed or things could slip through. And so I think that using AI will certainly be a huge plus for entities when it comes to the ongoing monitoring of compliance activities.
Right. So we talked about the organizational impact, and of course, most of us will have some, engagement with an organization, whether that's as an employee or as a customer. However, there are impacts to us as individuals. So here we've just got a few tips of how you can protect your personal data when it comes to artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. One of the first ways is be cautious with sharing your data. I mean, let me ask you, Lennox. When was the last time you shared data online? Personal data.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I'm today, Siobhan. I announced one of my parents' birthdays. Siobhan, you.
When was the last time I shared some data?
Some personal data online, some personal information about
yourself. Yesterday, I filled out an application.
We will always be sharing our data. So we're not saying don't share your data, because you obviously Siobhan was doing an application. I wanted to announce my father's birthday, and Lennox had its reasons for sharing his personal information. It's just to be cautious, read the fine print. And I know it's so boring, but really just take an opportunity, because a lot of these systems are sharing data. Siobhan, do you want to talk a little bit about how that sort of navigates? You mentioned database training. They need data, right? They're hungry. Can you just talk a bit about how you share the fact that I went to certain finance, how that used and taken, or I upload my picture, how that might be used and taken and put into an artificial intelligence training database?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when we think of ChatGPT alone and how it just grabs information from all over the web, that speaks volumes. When we're talking about generative AI, that's what that's called. So it's generating information, grabbing information to generate a result, right? It's giving us the output. Of course, when we are posting things, that information is likely going to be pulled with some of those pieces of technology, as well as when we're searching for things, when we're entering certain pieces of information on a form, on certain platforms. It's saving the information that you've entered. And so we do have to be very careful. AI, again, as we see it emerging technologies, it needs data. It's going to be pulling data from things. We can manage some of that when it's more internal to our personal life. We have to be mindful of what types of data is being used for the decisions that impact our lives and impact the way we work, and that impact other family members. Tahira, you mentioned your father's birthday, so you might have shared that. Did he give you permission for you to share that
Well,
information?
no, technically no, but he already knows that I share stuff. But no, again,
But yeah,
just as a point there, Siobhan. Actually, if anyone knows me that's on this, or watching this video at any point, the post did not put his age. Identity did not put the ages. The
we
reason is
forgive
that, of
you.
course, people can go back and calculate what year they were born, and now they've got a close person's date of birth.
Mhm.
So now, if I'm going to try a password or PIN, let me try that, right?
Mhm.
So I do understand people wanting to celebrate. I do it myself. Individuals' birthdays, and someone really close to you, I do encourage you, unless absolutely necessary, try not to just put the year, or
Yeah.
unless it might be low risk. So it may be a young person, so the risk of their data, being used in that way might be minimal. But again, it's just being cautious, thinking
Yeah.
about different avenues.
Mindfulness, mindful privacy,
Mhm.
being aware, like you said, at all times. So if you are the type that shares, like Tahira and I, make sure that you've got security safeguards in place. I like to say, go straight. As soon as you are introduced to a new app, a new piece of technology, go straight to the settings and create your place of comfort, right? If you were to go to a hotel or you to buy a house, you would immediately start creating a safe space for yourself. And so create that on your with your technology as well, and the apps, so that you feel safe when you are sharing.
And then there are lots of privacy-centric services that you can use these days, just as simple as your web browser. The web browsers, if you're using the Googles and Microsoft, they love it. They make their money off of your data. There are more web browsers that tend to not collect so much data about you and your web browsing history and things like that, such as DuckDuckGo is one of them. Of course, it's another one. It's just going from my head. But there are many different browsers. There's secure email systems as well, such as Proton Mail, that can be used. And also, just a point with emails. By default, most emails are unsecured. So if you are sending highly sensitive information, or financial information by email, do your best to make sure it's encrypted or secured in some way to make sure that that information is not get. And then monitor your accounts. Um, as Siobhan said, going in as soon as you're getting a new access to a new system, or a new program, looking at those terms and conditions, looking at what privacy settings. Most applications now will have some sort of security or privacy feature that you can sort of lock it down a little bit further, because of course artificial intelligence can be used for good, but there are also lots of bad actors out there that would love to get access to your data. And just on the talk of, we just mentioned about sharing online and social media, making sure that the apps that you're using on social media as well, because there's lots of little quizzes and little games you can do. When you go to read the fine print, you actually see that they can share that information that you put into their system with any other entity that they so desire. So being really vigilant about your accounts is important. As well as if you do notice there's some, something going on or you have unauthorized activity or transactions, depending on the circumstance, you obviously want to try and contact the organization. You may need to contact the police. If it's personal data and you feel there may be been a breach, you can also contact the office of the privacy commissioner in Bermuda. So again, just being really actually vigilant about that. Siobhan, how can someone contact the privacy commissioner's office if they did have any concerns about their personal data?
Sure. They can, of course, get in touch via our website, so www.privacy.bm. There you can find tons of tools and resources and blogs, guidance materials, and all sorts. But at the top, you can see contact us, and that way you can get in touch via email as well. Anyone interested in specific questions around AI, emerging technologies, and privacy, they can also email innovation@privacy.bm.
Okay, great. And then predictions and projections. So we're winding up. We've got about 5 minutes left. But really, we want to just sort of delve into some of these predictions and projections. So you've seen a lot of, I'm sure, statistics. There's been a lot of news programs about what AI is going to mean in the future for us. Siobhan, when you talked about, you have a real interest in ethics and how that's the interplay between these technologies and how organizations are using data, how that is going to pan out. What are your predictions for AI and ethics in the next 5 years? And then how do you project that regulations will impact your prediction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to find more people coming together. I talk a lot about collaboration. We're finding that we need that collective because we don't know what's ahead of us, right? So how do we establish what ethics will look like as we continue to navigate these emerging technologies and emerging situations? Very exciting, but as we've discussed, tons of risks. So I think, yeah, we're going to see more conversations around building ethics by design. Just like we have privacy and security by design, we're going to see where businesses, if they want to have the competitive advantage, that they will start embedding some of those principles when they are deciding on technology, when they're deciding on business development as well. They're really going to start considering ethics across the board. And in that, of course, ethics and regulation, they're not identical, right? So in terms of regulation, the way that we communicate with other industries is going to be important. The way that we come together and have those conversations. So I think we're going to see a lot more, again, collective thinking, a lot more opportunities for people across sectors and industries and interests and disciplines coming together with what's called a transdisciplinary approach. So really exploring what we don't know in those disciplines and how that can impact individuals and society around privacy and ethics.
Thanks. And Lennox, you already mentioned that, as an accountant, a trained accountant, you're already using some of these tools. How do you see the uptake of artificial intelligence technologies in the field of accounting over the next 5 years? And how do you project this will impact those looking for a career in the accounting and finance industry?
Yeah, so I mean, it is just like how the onset of computers and technology has revolutionized most industries. It is going to have a great impact. We are seeing now that even recently, if you go to our social media pages, we just posted an article. The most recent version of ChatGPT actually passed the CPA exams with flying colors. That is scary. So for us, I think we are going to move. I mean, we're traditionally known as number crunchers, as accountants. Our role is going to be significantly transformed because they no longer need us to be putting numbers into systems, putting transactions into systems. AI can do all of that. So we are going to be, or we have to become more now advisors. And that is until AI get to a stage where it can also take over that part of it, but that is a long way down the road. But we're going to be interpreting now the information that comes out of accounting systems for the benefit of financial people, whereas AI is going to be the ones getting the information into the system. The way how accounting is taught, it has to change as well. As I just mentioned, AI is passing CPA exams, things that I would have learned in university, my 7-year-old can probably do today. So the way how we teach accounting, what we focus on in obtaining accounting degrees and certifications, it really has to change from what it is now or what it has been in the past, to be more relevant to what an accountant is expected to do in the future with AI in our world as well.
Okay, those are some really interesting predictions and projections. We'll watch this space. We'll watch this video again in 5 years and see how close to reality we actually are. For my part, when it comes to cybersecurity, I think we're just going to bots fighting bots. You're going to have systems fighting each other, one's trying to uphill the good fight, and the other one's, trying to break their way in. In terms of projections, if there is a major data breach due to AI, I think regulation, to your point, Siobhan, is going to come down pretty hard. Because again, there's a lot of, and we won't talk about it, but particularly because we're running out of time, but there's a lot of narratives that are being driven out now around, who should be allowed to use AI and how quickly it's coming to market, some of these solutions. That could be for another talk. Siobhan, if you wanted to come back on and have that discussion. But I think a lot of this space is going to change so fluidly. Again, we're only 6 months into 2023. December 31st, 2022, this was not the topic on everyone's around everyone's dinner table. So we will watch this space. Lennox, did you want to just quickly mention what support options or ways you can help organizations as they're navigating this?
Yeah, so we have an advisory team here at Abacus that can help you implement different operations and processes and controls, basically risk management controls around AI and the future of AI as it impact different types of businesses. So feel free, again, if you're interested in that sort of advisory, you can visit our website, www.abacus.bm. And all of our contact information is on there, or email is info@abacus.bm. So feel free to reach out to us and we can advise around different processes and procedures that are to be implemented to protect data surrounding AI.
Okay. For myself, as a representative for the TLC group, we actually have, and there's little 15-minute courses you say you like so much at Lennox. We have them for artificial intelligence and machine learning. So feel free to visit our website, www.thetlcgroup.pro. You can learn a little bit more about the courses, or go to directly to our online course catalog from there. Where you can see some of those courses and just, again, advance your learning. They are, again, designed to give a good amount of information about a subject that for some people is a little scary and intimidating in a friendly manner. So again, have a look at that. And then Siobhan, from the Privacy Commissioner's Office, you mentioned the Pink Sandbox earlier. What other ways are you there to help support the community?
Sure. Well, we've started to embed some AI best practices, or not best practice, I shouldn't say. We're still trying to figure that out, right? But some AI ethics, thinking about privacy, how to protect information. We've been embedding some of that in our trainings. So the Know Your Rights, or Managing Your Privacy Rights, that was a course that was the first, I believe, that really talked about privacy rights in an AI context, so to speak. So we'll be putting out some new things. We'll be encouraging and creating opportunities, safe spaces to continue to have these types of conversations as well. So looking forward to engaging with yourself and Lennox in the future as we continue to talk about AI and privacy and security.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Again, we just wanted to thank you for joining us today, or if you're watching it on repeat, we're both, we're both, I'm used to just you and me, Lennox. All three of us are on social media, on LinkedIn. You can drop your comments and questions to us. And we look forward to sharing some more information in our next live stream, which I believe is scheduled for September now, right? Is that correct, Lennox? Yeah, I think we've got a September date coming up. So keep an eye out. We'll be sharing that information. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.